Hello everybody and welcome to QuipScope. It's the show where we talk about a game that's just coming out or has just come out. My name is James.
And my name is Ben.
Hello Ben.
Hello James.
How are you?
It's good. It's an exciting day today.
It is. It's Elden Ring Day.
It certainly is. I was fortunate enough to get Elden Ring code last night or yesterday afternoon. So I rushed home. It was like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory with my golden Elden Ring ticket.
Run, Ben.
Arrived home, discovered that I'd accidentally pushed the closed network test from last November to download instead of the full game.
Oh no.
And then had to wait for a further hour. And I felt very stupid. But that's PlayStation's fault. That's PlayStation's fault for designing a silly app. But anyway, I have played maybe three and a half hours thereabouts. It's not a huge amount. And obviously, you know, that opening area is exactly the area that was in the closed network test. However, things are different. So I'm going to talk about some stuff that I encountered for the first time, or that maybe I didn't notice previously, or that I don't remember you and I talking about when we did the QuipScope on the closed network test from last year. So if you want a more general overview of the gameplay and how that all works, if you're watching the video and not listening to the audio podcast version, click the end cards where you can go and watch a video about 10 things you need to know about Elden Ring, and also, of course, our QuipScope on the closed network test from last year.
Both excellent videos.
Both excellent videos. Phenomenal coverage. So, it is different from the closed network test. This is not a shock.
Interesting.
Obviously, because it just sort of plonked you down in the cave at the beginning of the network test, and you just sort of off you went.
That's right. There was like a little side bit where the basic sort of tutorial sort of bits, but then
See, I somehow didn't see that in the network test. I didn't even see that in the network test. So when I
know how to play
when
this
I
game.
paid attention, I felt under so much pressure in that network test.
Yeah.
Where I was like, I've got
the time limit.
I've only got a 1 hour window and I've got to do everything in it. So I was actually taking my time a little bit and smelling the roses. But in classic FromSoft fashion, you start off elsewhere and you sort of make your way around corners and these beautiful sights. And you're like, this is easy. I'm so good. And then they do the classic, here's a boss. Yeah, I bet you feel small and rubbish now, don't you?
Deal with that.
You stupid boy. But one thing we didn't see in the closed network test was the character creator. I would say that this is probably the most in-depth character creator they've had. Not necessarily in terms of the number of hairstyles, because you've got maybe like 25 for all hairstyles.
That's maybe 300% on Dark Souls, I think.
Yeah. So, and then you've got all the sliders, but it's a much prettier game, so you can change all the sliders up and really make some monstrosities or make what you
thank the Lord
really
for that.
want. But what I ended up making was a character called Astrid Brute Force.
Oh, nice.
But unfortunately, they wouldn't let me have a U with like an umlaut or anything over the top of it. So it's Brute Force, sadly. And I just tried to make this. Seemingly, I have a type when I make characters in video games. I just tried to make this massive, powerful woman who wields a big weapon. That was my goal.
It's the dream.
But what I really liked though is that you could get like face tattoos and stuff in various other games.
Yeah,
you couldn't really move them around before. Now you can actually manipulate them around. So
that's interesting.
You can have eye patches. So I put an eye patch over one eye, and then I put on a as a tattoo, but it's like it's like claw marks, like scars.
Yes.
And I was able to manipulate those so they were just poking out from underneath the eye patch, which is a minor detail, but I thought that was pretty cool. I quite like the fact that
nice. Like a lot of like more modern sort of character creators. I think like wrestling games and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, wrestling games are sort of the gold standard for really just messing around with that stuff. But yeah, I was seriously impressed by that, and I wasn't worried, but we didn't see it, so this was my first time really seeing it. One thing that has been introduced in the full game, I say introduced, was always the plan in the full game, but wasn't in the closed network test, are things called stone sword keys.
Yeah.
These, if you've played Dark Souls 2, they're like Pharos lock stones. So they are a consumable item that are uncommon. And there are set areas in the world where you will come across these little goblin statues. And if you interact with them and consume one of these stone sword keys, it will unlock a path to something. It just so happens that there is one, quite obviously, right at the start of the game, and also right at the start of the network test.
Yeah.
That dungeon is not for new players, but it was also I think out of my entire time playing it, and I know that obviously I was just sort of retreading ground that I played previously in the network test, but that was the closest I have come to like feeling the real sense of unease and fear that a Souls game puts into you. And there will be footage showing on screen, and so I'm going to talk generally about some things that people might not necessarily want to hear if they want to experience the full game for themselves. It is extremely early content, obviously, because I've only had a few hours with the game. But there's this giant mechanical whirly-gig saw horseman that's coming up towards you, and I could hear it like, oh my God, what is that? No. What is that noise? And I saw it coming. I was like, oh no, I don't think I can get out of the way of this. And it comes all the way up and just goes, jung, and stops, and then turns around and then goes back down. Like, okay, I played this before. I've got to time my runs down there and hide in archways. But then as you continue down, there's a corner, and you go around the corner like, oh, thank God, I've got away with it. Safe. And then it goes, oh, you've gone around the corner now. And it starts coming down the next section, and you can't outrun it. And there are enemies in some of the alcoves. And I was like, I need to come back later. But that was such a scary moment. I was like, if this game has more of that stuff, because I know it's open world now, but there is scope with the dungeons for there to be these linear sections that you expect from FromSoft games. If there's lots of that, I can't wait to just be terrified and work them out on my own or with my friends. Like, it's so good.
Absolutely. I mean, that Frank, I mean, not that I had any doubts, but I'm glad that they've got that sort of vibe of the game. With just being terrified, just making like every little bit of progress feel like just the best accomplishment.
Yeah.
So you were saying about like it feeling terrifying, but there's been a lot of talk about like what sort of changes have been made to make it sort of easier, or not necessarily easier, but more accessible.
Yeah.
Did you notice anything new that wasn't in a network test, or?
Well, they've moved bosses around.
Yeah.
And they've moved items around. So the what's he called? Like the tower, not the tower, the tree guardian, the big guy on his horse.
Of course,
immediately. He's still there. And I spent about 20 minutes trying to beat him last night. I eventually did it. But I did it all on horseback. So I felt like it was really good lesson on like how to get good at being on horseback with the combat and stuff.
Yeah.
The first vendor that you find in the destroyed church, he doesn't sell the same stuff that he did before.
Yeah,
so you can't just buy loads of really powerful stuff.
He was like a catch-all merchant at the start.
You've only got an hour. Here you go. Here's some items.
Yeah.
But I did find that if I was sticking to the beaten path, because I knew, I had to capture some footage, didn't have a lot of time with it, and I wanted to like get Torrent, the horse, as soon as possible. So I did just sort of follow the general guide of where to go, because there's obviously that sort of spectral grace light that leads you from path to path to sort of keep you on the main story. Yeah, if you want to just like go straight for it. Not that you can, because you will be underleveled, so you have to explore the area around you.
Maniac.
But I did come across, like, I was sad when I couldn't get the, what are they called? The ashes, the spectral, I can't remember what they're called. The summons.
Weapon ashes?
Not the ashes of war, but the sort of spirit ashes that you can summon if you're not playing multiplayer, and you get like little help. So there was the wolves were for sale, I think, at the vendor.
In a network test, let alone,
Well, that was the thing I was going to say. In terms of accessibility, I just, at one of the sites of grace, which are the equivalent of the bonfires, and you do pretty much everything at them. You access your storage, you can level up. Once you reach a certain threshold, you can level up. There was just an NPC sat there, and I spoke to her a few times, exhausted her dialogue, and she said, actually, would you take this one with you? I think you would really like an adventure. And I got the spirit jellyfish as like a summon. So there's that moment was like, oh, brilliant. I didn't have to go looking for that at all. I didn't have to look for a guide. It was just an NPC sat near a site of grace. It felt organic and it felt right.
Yeah. And the classic Soulsborne thing of keep talking until they do a creepy laugh.
Make sure you exhaust that dialogue. You've got to exhaust that dialogue, otherwise you're missing out. One thing that I can't remember if it was in the network test or not, you'll have to correct me here, were pouches in the network test.
Oh, so like for your inventory to like
add additional stuff?
I don't remember that, no.
Okay, so this is something, again, that I may have just missed in the network test because I was going hell for leather.
Yeah.
But you can add, because obviously you've got your inventory on the D-pad. If you press down, you scroll through it. And if you hold down, it goes to the first slot. And normally you have your healing flasks in there and stuff. But during a fight, it can be like, oh, and you're like mashing through it, like keeping an eye on the corner. And, you know, if you want to get out of there quickly with Torrent, you've got to like mash the button until you get to Torrent, summon item. You can now equip stuff to a pouch. And if you hold triangle and then press either of the D-pad directions, you can access those items. So it's like an additional button input. So I've put Torrent in the up slot and summon my little buddies in the down slot. So if I'm in a jam or just going around the open world, I don't have to worry about pressing the D-pad until I see the item I want and risk not having my healing flask on hand. I can just hold triangle and press up and Torrent's there and I can just disappear.
Perfect.
So that was like a very small thing that I didn't notice in the network test that I just thought, that's great, because I know basically that means to summon Torrent, you have to hold triangle and press up, and that can get a bit overwhelming. But if you're in charge of the stuff that's in those slots, it becomes a little less
customize it and
a little less intense. One final thing that was pretty new. There is a Firelink Shrine type area in this game. It is called the Round Table Hold, and it is rad. So you get transported there after a little while. The maiden takes you there, and it's a place that you can access anytime by fast traveling on the main map. It's like a place out of time. It's just it's like in the extreme bottom left of the map, so you don't actually. I don't think you can walk there. But it's full of heroes, and they're all very dismissive of you because you're like another Tarnished, and like, well, you've got to prove yourself before I give you anything. But there's like the classic FromSoft like giant blacksmith there. Yes. There's the sorcery guy. Yeah. There's a lady who will give you a hug, and I'll say no more about that. And she will give you a hug. It's very strange. And there's various locked doors, almost implying that as you progress further, not only will these NPCs give you more dialogue and more information, but you can access the inner sanctums of the Round Table Hold. But that is a safe space where you are literally not allowed to use your weapons. Like it's disabled, which is a rarity for these games.
Yeah, sometimes like
you just kill NPCs.
Yeah, it's like, well, you've just made a silly mistake and you're gonna have to live with it.
That. Yeah. Every time you go back to Firelink, everyone's gonna run at you and try and kill you now until they forget. So there is that hub area. You're not just running around in the field and camping at sites of grace. Like you can actually go to this main sort of hub and go there. Didn't do any multiplayer. I'm not entirely sure if it's on, to be honest, because I didn't see any summon signs. But there was one outside the first big boss guy,
like an NPC summon?
Margaret the Fell. That's not his name.
Margaret.
You know the guy.
Yeah,
he's guarding the bridge. You fight him. Outside of that boss fight, I did encounter my first NPC summon, which was like some kind of sorcerer. He was rubbish. He got absolutely destroyed, but I was also way underleveled for that fight anyway, so I also got destroyed. But like that, those are the sort of the main big things. There's also some cutscenes and dialogue that I didn't see before. I went into like a boss fight, and it was a completely different boss from the one in the network test, and I thought, okay, and
that's cool.
He was a bit scary, but keep
you on your toes.
That is my limited time with Elden Ring. I'm super impressed. Now I'm going away for the weekend, and I'm not going to be able to play it. I'm really sad, but I'm glad that we're able to sort of get this out and talk about some of the newer stuff in there. Is it a 98 on Metacritic? I mean, I don't know yet, but it's really good, and I think it's probably the best thing FromSoftware have ever made. So by that virtue alone, it's an absolute recommendation, even though I still think players who have heard it's a bit more accessible and think, okay, well, it's time for me to hop in. There's still going to be a lot of people who are going to bounce off it, I think.
That's the thing. I feel like there's still going to be a learning curve as well, but the fact that they've gone to such lengths to provide these things and also make it natural in a sort of FromSoft style, probably does. I mean, that combined with like the open world has probably led some way towards all these 100% perfect schools. So
it's got to be pretty good, right?
I'm hoping so.
Look forward to playing more. You've got your copy on your desk.
Oh,
so
yes.
We shan't delay any longer. Elden Ring, more like Elden Bling, because it's the jewel in Namco Bandai's crown.
Why are you reading from your hand, Ben? That's weird.
Elden Ring, more like Elden Fling, because you know what? I'm willing to go all the way, baby.
Elden Ring, more like the Legend of Zelda and Breath of the Ring.
Nice.
That was
good.
thought that last night.
That was really good. You've been thinking on that one for a while. Well, thank you so much for watching / listening, everyone. We'll catch you all next time. Hope you enjoy Elden Ring.
Yeah, happy Elden Ring day. Enjoy your weekends. Goodbye.
Bye.